I played Eevee Box to the biggest Pokemon tournament to date. With over 3,700 participating players, I went 5-2-2, ending slightly out of top 512, and once again being one win short of day 2ing. But I played a funny little tech card called Larry. Larry reads, flip a coin, if heads, search your deck for up to 2 Pokemon, reveal them and put them into your hand. If tails, search your deck for a basic Pokemon, reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. This, if you flip heads, is an objectively better Brock Scouting, allowing you to grab 2 in any combination of Pokemon. They can be 2 evolutions, 1 evolution, 1 basic, or 2 basics, which adds a little bit more flexibility if you're willing to roll the dice on it. But if you flip tails, it's not the end of the world either, being able to grab you Fezandipiti, backup Hoothoot, or a Terra Pokemon like Eevee EX or Terapagos to turn on your Noctowls. And unironically, it got quite a bit of value at the event, hitting 3 heads and only 1 tails over the course of 9 best-of-3 rounds. As for the rest of the list, we played a pretty standard Eevee Box build, playing a 4-4 Noctowl line for consistency, 1 Boosted Evolution Eevee, 1 Colorful Friends Eevee, and 1 Eevee EX as the mons to evolve into our Eeveelutions. We also played 2 Flareon EX. The Burning Charge lets us set up the field fairly easily, and Carnelian swinging for 280 is a massive amount of damage. Leafeon EX, which was mainly for the Grimmsnarl matchup. Verdant Storm also came up in other matchups, and Mossagate being able to do a solid 230 knocks out things like Iron Hands and heals our entire bench. Healing out of, like, Devo TM was super relevant in the Grimmsnarl matchup. And then we have Sylveon EX, which Angelite is kind of the hard carry in any of those Stage 2 matchups that we want to be able to set them behind and be able to gradually take prizes. Generally, the game plan is that you want to take a prize Angelite, repeat, or vice versa, starting with Angelite and going into Magical Charm after that. Sylveon EX is kind of like the glue that holds this deck together for sure. Then we have Terapagos EX, which, because we are playing 1 Grass Energy, allows us to Crown Opal a little bit easier without necessarily needing to use our Sparkling Crystal. This helps a lot in those big basic decks like JoltikBox or Raging Bolt, allowing us to buy time in those situations where our opponent starts in the lead in those particular matchups. Aside from that, we had a pretty standard Eevee Box list. We had 3 Crispin, 2 Boss, 2 Iono, 1 Turo, 1 Briar as our supporter lineups, aside from our spicy Larry inclusion, and the 2-2-2-2-1 energy line with Sparkling Crystal as our A-Spec. The one other inclusion in here that's a little bit different from some other Eevee Box decks would be our Jamming Tower. Jamming Tower got quite a bit of value in the Gardevoir matchup for being able to search out the stadium to knock out our opponent's Drifloon after they've taken a KO on us, because they've needed to accelerate a bunch of energy and put a bunch of damage onto a Drifloon in order to KO one of our Eeveelutions, which we can then respond with Jamming Tower and following it up with either an Angelite or a knockout on another Pokemon. Generally, this will be a closing play in the Gardevoir matchup to be able to either put them to no attackers on field and no Gardevoirs on field, or just win the game outright. It's also very useful into another terrible matchup of ours, Rocket Box, which allows us to turn off our opponent's Bravery Charm, allowing us to KO Team Rocket's Mewtwo EX with Carnelian. Overall, I'm pretty proud of my performance, and honestly I wouldn't change a card from this list, but I was disappointed to whiff Day 2 again. So we decided to run it back with the same 60 in Sunny's Weekly the following Monday, and here's how it went. Round 1, I was up against JoltikBox. I won the coin flip and chose to go second. We start with an awkward hand that is unable to get our ideal Fan Rotom turn 1 start, so we use our Terra Orb to grab Terapagos EX, and Crispin to Eevee and Terapagos to set up for a potential turn 2 swing. And use Colorful Friends to grab Flareon, Mew, and Fezandipiti to try to set up for the next turn. Realistically, I should have grabbed Hoothoot instead of Mew here, but we're never punished because we top decked a Hoothoot the next turn. I wanted to go ahead and Colorful Friends again here, but the game bugged and didn't allow me to select an attack on the Eevee or retreat the Eevee, so it was forced to evolve to be able to play the game, evolving into Leafeon to try and bait the Pikachu into KOing it to remove a few of their energies from the board. We can finally Noctowl, so we grab Crispin and Buddy Poffin to be able to set up another Hoothoot, an Eevee, and set up our Terapagos to be able to Crown Opal, forcing our opponent to need to gust around us. They Jolting Charge again, and we respond by using another Noctowl to grab Crispin in Area 0, allowing us to establish another Hoothoot, and set up Flareon EX on the bench. Then KO their Joltik with Crown Opal. They bench Terapagos and play Crispin, but apparently they don't have enough energy in deck to set up onto Terapagos, so they just pass, allowing us to just take the KO on Latias with Unified Beatdown. They pull up and KO Hoothoot with Amp You Very Much, but as that brings them down to 2 remaining prizes, we're just able to play Briar and KO the Iron Hands with Carnelian for a 3-prize turn, getting us our first win of the tournament. Round 2, I was up against Dragapult PultPhlosion. I won the coin flip and decided to go first. Unfortunately, we start Lone Fezandipiti and attach Pass. Luckily, our opponent also doesn't have much going on, and they Iono us into a much better hand, allowing us to use their Artisan to get a Hoothoot, Ultra Ball for an Eevee EX, bench Clefairy, and then restart for 3 cards before retreating into Fan Rotom to take the KO on their active Cyndaquil. They establish 2 Quilava and a Dracaloak, and then swing for 40 damage. I Noctowl for Buddy and Crispin to get another Hoothoot and Eevee down, Crispin to my Flareon, and swing for KO on the active Quilava, setting up my Lillie's Clefairy on the bench. As, if my Flareon gets KO'd, then I don't have a Terra left on the field. They play Ethan's Adventure and attach Max Belt in order to KO my Flareon. And I respond by Nest Balling for Terapagos, and then using Noctowl to grab Buddy Poffin and Super Rod. Using Super Rod to put back in Hoothoot and 2 energy, and then Buddy Poffining to grab 2 Hoothoots. Then I take the KO on the active Typhlosion with Lily's Clefairy. My opponent is unable to respond, so they Iono'd me to 3, which allows me to Night Stretcher for Noctowl and grab Ultra Ball and Boss to boss up and KO their 1 benched Quilava with Clefairy again. Then they are only able to Evo TM up a Quilava and a Typhlosion, allowing me to set up my bench Flareon and go down to 1 prize, with 2 setup attackers, making it where no matter what they KO, I just win off the next swing since they have no way to set up a Dragapult in a single turn, allowing me to win the game with Flareon after they KO my Clefairy, putting me up to 2-0 in the tournament. Round 3, I was up against PultZard. Our opponent won the coin flip and decided to go second, so we got to get off a solid turn 1 Fan Rotom turn where we grabbed 2 Hoothoots and an Eevee, and then preemptively grabbed a Sylveon EX off Terra Orb to avoid getting Budooed out of being able to establish it. Our opponent Evo TMs up 2 Dracaloaks, and we respond by Noctowling for Crispin and Sparkling Crystal, and then Angeliting both of our opponent's Dracaloaks. Our opponent responds by re-establishing their board and then Itchy Pollinating us. On the next turn, we make a critical misplay and take the KO on Budoo, which allows our opponent to completely turn the game in their favor by being able to Howlucha ping our benched Hoothoot and Eevee, counter Catcher up the other Hoothoot, unfair stamp us, and remove both Hoothoots from my board. Needless to say, we lost this game, but let's analyze this turn a bit. If we had just passed there without taking the KO, we would have been in a winning position here, because if they Itchy Pollen us again, we're able to Angelite again, and if they do Dragapult us, the best they can do is KO either one of the 2 Hoothoots or the Eevee with a Howlucha ping, unless they have Boss, in which case they aren't disrupting us, which would allow us to Nest Ball for Lily's Clefairy to KO the Dragapult with Sylveon, or be able to use Counter Catcher to pull up Fez and Angelite the Dracaloaks again. Regardless, 2-1 now. Round 4, I was up against Pengo, or Pult Golden Go. Our opponent won the coin flip and chose to go first, and we start the game off with the Terapagos inactive. The start isn't looking too bad with the immediate Hoothoot top deck and Larry in hand, so after our opponent gets their initial setup going, we get to play our first Larry of the tournament!
Yippee!
And unfortunately, it hits tails. Aww. But this still allows us to grab a Fan Rotom and get our board going by being able to grab Eevee, Hoothoot, and Noctowl to be ready to swing with Flareon on the following turn. We also use our Ultra Ball to grab Latias so we can retreat into Fan Rotom to avoid leaving a 2-prizer in the active. They simply attach to Dreepy and pass, allowing us to be able to Noctowl for Area 0 and Buddy Poffin to establish another Eevee and Hoothoot, and then Crispin onto Flareon to take the KO on the active Gimmighoul, allowing us to set up the Eevee on the bench. They take the KO on our Flareon with Goldengo, and it's apparent that I had overextended on the prior turn and left myself relying on a top deck. So we just need to use Colorful Friends and grab Flareon, Noctowl, and Fezandipiti to set up for the next turn. They take the KO on our Eevee with Dracaloak, which puts us in an awkward spot. But we're able to establish another Flareon, use Noctowl to grab Super Rod and Sparkling Crystal, Rod back in the boosted evolution Eevee and 2 energies, boss up their Goldengo, and then Flareon to the newly established Eevee on the bench. Little did I know that this was a critical misplay, as I had not noticed that they had Howlucha in their list, allowing them to Howlucha ping my Latias and Fan Rotom, boss up Latias, and win the game with a 3-prize turn with Dragapult EX. I should have just KO'd the Dracaloak. Oh well, 2-2 now. Round 5, I was up against Iono's Bellibolt, for whatever reason. We won the coin flip and got to go first, allowing us to Ultra Ball for Fan Rotom and grab 2 Hoothoots and an Eevee, and then attach to Eevee and pass. Our opponent Ionos us into Noctowl, and we Noctowl to grab Terra Orb and Nest Ball, allowing us to Terra Orb for Flareon, Nest Ball for Mew, and Crispin to set up our Flareon before taking a KO on their lone Tadbulb. Our opponent doesn't really have a response, so we just take the KO on their active Wattrel on the next turn. They have another turn with no response, so we get to play Larry again! Yippee! And we do actually hit heads this time. So we grab another Eevee and a Noctowl, and then Burning Charge, KO the active Voltorb. They finally get down another Tadbulb and manage to swing with Voltorb for 100, but we just boss up their Tadbulb and Burning Charge KO it. At this point, they just concede, which is an unfortunate game for them, but we are 3-2 now. Round 6, I was up against Gardevoir. So, you know this will be a fun game. We get to go first, and we Fan Rotom for 2 Hoothoots and an Eevee, and use double Nest Ball for Eevee EX and Latias EX, so a pretty cracked initial turn. Our opponent sets up their board but isn't able to Evo TM, so on my turn I Noctowl to grab Larry and Sparkling Crystal, because if I whiff Larry I still have second Noctowl, and I play Larry again! Yippee! I do succeed the flip and grab Flareon and Sylveon, and I decide to swing with Flareon into Monkey Dory because they didn't Evo TM, and set up the Sylveon for the following turn. They only establish one Kirlia on the following turn, so I just Noctowl for Boss and Area 0, Buddy for 2 more Hoothoots, and Boss KO their only Kirlia with Flareon again. They countercatcher up a Noctowl and Evo TM up one more Kirlia, so I respond by attach retreating and then bossing up the one Kirlia again. They respond by getting another Ralts down and swinging for just short of KO on Flareon, so I Night Stretcher for Fire Energy, bench Mew to play around Iono, and Carnelian to KO the Clefairy. They use Scream Tail to slap KO my Flareon, and then I Night Stretcher for Lightning back, and take the KO on Scream Tail with Sylveon, putting us up to 4-2. Round 7, I was up against Dragapult, so we get the chance to redeem ourselves against Pult. We start Latias, top deck Nest Ball for Fan Rotom, and grab Eevee, Hoothoot, and Noctowl. And then Latias retreat into Boosted Evolution Eevee to establish a Sylveon EX with energy attached on turn 1 of the game going first. They set up their board and Iono us, but aren't able to get into Budu, so we're able to Terra Orb for Eevee EX, bench Mew, attach to Sylveon, and Iono them. We hit Crystal off Iono, so we decide to knock out Dreepy with Magical Charm, because it still leaves us with the ability to Angel Light on the following turn. They respond with Jamming Tower into Budu plus double Dracaloak, giving us the perfect opportunity to Crispin Psychic Energy to Sylveon, and Angel Light their 2 Lokes. They Iono us and establish 2 more Dreepy, so we Noctowl for Area 0 and Boss, bench another Hoothoot, and Boss KO the Dreepy with energy on it. They established Loke and another Dreepy, Countercatcher Noctowl, and Budu us again, which we are able to respond to using Turo on Noctowl to re-promote Sylveon, and rebench Hoothoot before Angeliting their Loke and Dreepy again, which leads to a quick concession from them, putting us at a solid score of 5-2 to end the run. And there you have it. We went 5-2, finishing 20th of 128 people, which, all things considered, is a pretty solid result. Sure, it's no NAIC Day 2, but I don't regret a single thing about the deck I chose. Thank you all for watching to this point. This video took a while to make, and I feel like I put my all into it. So if you enjoyed, please leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and comment below telling me what you think. And maybe give some suggestions on decks to play in future tournament runs, because I stream Pokemon TCG online tournament runs every Monday at 6 as well, if you'd like to come watch and be a part of my runs live. Again, thank you for watching, and I will catch y'all later.